Hey Truth Seekers, it's Nathaniel with another deck profile. Today I'm going to be covering Ellie, Holy Spirit, Hope, and Love. So to start off with, Ellie has the victory condition that says you win by scoring 55 virtue points. However, if you are using this in a competitive format, it is 70 points in order to win. All right. Go ahead and move these out of the way. And let's begin. Start off with power cards. I have 1 Holy Spirit power. I have 2 Love power, 2 Hope power, and 3 Prayer. So the reason for these numbers is that I don't have very many Holy Spirit Animo, so just in case I need to activate 2 of them in a single turn, I have the 1 extra power. My goal is to basically have the Holy Spirit, the 2 Love, and the 2 Hope. However, I can swap out my Love or my Hope and replace them with Prayer. So that way I have a more diverse way of activating my Animo. Next up, we have our equipments, which we're going to have 1 Helmet of Salvation and 2 Pulse Chains. Helmet of Salvation is a card that says this card cannot be attached to an Ultra Animo, but when an Animo to whom this card is attached is to be discarded, discard this card instead and return the Animo to your hand. The way this card works now is that we'll attach to something like Potpourri, activate Potpourri, return Potpourri to our hand. So that way we can gain use of using Potpourri next turn. Next up, we have Paul's Chains. Paul's Chain says the Animo to whom this card is attached may not be activated at any time, but may be discarded anytime during your setup phase. Once per turn, as long as this card is attached to an Animo in your small group, you may search your deck for up to 2 level 1 Animo, place them in your small group, and if there's no room in your small group, this card has no use. So this card helps us search out for Animo that we need. Next up, I have some letters. I have a letter to Thessalonica, a letter to Galatia, a letter to Corinth, and Bible Study Holy Spirit. Bible Study Holy Spirit lets me search the deck for a Holy Spirit Animo. This letter to Corinth lets me search my deck for a card that provides a Love Fellowship bonus. This letter to Thessalonica searches my deck for an Animo that provides a Hope Fellowship bonus. And the letter to Galatia lets me search for a Animo that has a Holy Spirit Fellowship bonus. Next up is our Cinis. We have Judgeweed. One of the themes of this deck is that we're going to try and avoid having my opponent play Cinis on me. So, the ability says as long as the Cini is active, your opponent may not reveal Cinis to you. Then we have Merkay, which has the ability that says as long as the Cini is active, your opponent may not draw more than 2 cards during the draw phase, regardless of their hand size. Hookworm has the ability that says as long as the Cini is active, all of your opponent's animals require 1 extra universal cost in order to be activated. And we have Hippocritter, who has the ability that says as long as the Cini remains active, the actions of your opponent's virtuous animals have no effect. Due to the prevalence of Potpourri in the meta, I chose all these Animo that have really good abilities. Next up, we have Zapper King, who has an action that says your opponent may not play any level 1 Animo from their hand to their small group next turn. He has a really good ability that can kind of shut down your opponent for a turn, which is why he's the only Animo that I have in this deck that has an action. Next up, I have Plant Trap Mega, Globster Mega, and Nash Tree Mega. These are Mega Cinis that just have a high defense and have no actions or abilities. Due to Potpourri being a thing and all the Cinis, due to Potpourri and all the Cinis that are Megas that have actions, they are actions, they'll get shut down by Potpourri, which is why I chose to use Megas that have a high defense. Alright. Next up, we have Giant Killer and Paused Maws. Paused Maws allows this card to be placed in your active Cini zone, or next to it there's already a Cini there, and on the next turn your opponent can't reveal a Cini to you. Giant Killers let you search your deck for a Mega Cini and play it on your opponent, or if you are facing a Mega Cini, you can return it to the owner's deck. It's pretty good. Next up, we have Hoof It. Hoof It has the ability that says, if this card's in your hand, you may choose to discard it. If you do, you may shuffle any 3 cards from your discard pile back into your deck, excluding this card. Next we have Hightail. Hightail from Fearless has the Retreat ability and says, if this card's in your hand, you may reveal it to your opponent. Shuffle it back in your deck. If you do, draw 3 cards. This is going to help us draw power in this deck. Next, we have Schwimmer. Schwimmer has the action that says, search your deck for 1 standard power card. Place it directly into your power pool and shuffle your deck afterwards. He also has a Holy Spirit Fellowship bonus, which we will be using in this deck. We have 2 Tortosaur. His action comes in handy. It says you may search your deck for any level 1 Animo, place it directly into your small group. I don't like the idea of shuffling power cards back in this deck because I don't have a lot of easy access to it other than Schwimmer and Akinleo. However, Tortosaur does allow you for some power play, so that way you can go grab like Raspberry or another card that combos with the Fellowship bonus you have. Then I have a split of Scribble from Cross Trainers and 1 Scribble from Fearless. I chose this route because I don't have a whole lot of level 1 Animo that have a Fellowship bonus with Love in this deck. However, I chose to use Squibble simply based on the fact that he's cheap and he's a level 1. And I mean, I could have used like Glimmer, but that would require me to shuffle back power cards. I could use Hightail, and that would require me to shuffle back power cards. So I chose to go with this Squibble and just one of these because I already have Schwimmer in this to fill the Holy Spirit Fellowship bonus. For my Ultra, for Hope, I have Dependaroo Ultra. Dependaroo Ultra is an 8 for 1, but you have to shuffle that back. So I have 3 Hope Animo that shuffle back power cards. I'm not a big fan of that for this deck. However, gaining a lot of virtue points for low cost is really important for Ellie. Next up, I'm going to do my Holy Spirit Animo, which I have 2 Fos, and I have 2 Raspberry. Fos has the Fellowship bonus for 5 when he's activated with a Hope Animo, and Raspberry has the Fellowship bonus for 7 when he's activated with a Love Animo. Next, we have Quill level 1 and Quill level 2 for Holy Spirit. So, Quillo level 2 is a Fellowship bonus of 2 for 10, as long as it's activating the same turn as a Faith, Hope, or Love level 1 Animo. Moving on to my Love Animo, who's kind of like the crux of this deck, I have 2 Akinleo. The action is you may search your deck for 1 Faith, Hope, or Holy Spirit powered, add it to your power pool. Then we have 2 Furball. Furball has the ability, or it doesn't have an ability, but it has a Fellowship bonus of 1 for 5 when activated with a Holy Spirit Animo. And then we have Agapesaur. Agapesaur has the ability that says once per turn, discard 1 Faith or Hope Animo from your small group, search your deck for 1 Love Animo, and place it into your hand. And then we're going to go into the Fearless Agapesaur level 2, which has the action that says your opponent, no opponent may reveal a Cine to you on their next turn. Just so we can get around their Cines. Then we have Calbeca Ultra. Calbeca Ultra is a 1 for 5, but has the Fellowship bonus of a 1 for 10 with the Hope Animo. Then, of course, we're going to have our Flow Ultra, because Flow Ultra has the swap ability. It says you may discard this card from your small group. If you do, search your deck for any 3 Animo, reveal them, and place them in your hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. And lastly, we have Poperez and Poperez. Both of these are from Cross Trainers. This Poperez is Love, has the ability that says, as long as this card's in your small group, ignore the effects from the actions of any Cines your opponent reveals to you. And then lastly, we have Poperez that's Universal. It is a 12 for 3, which is on par with a lot of Ultras. However, it costs 1 Holy Spirit, 1 Hope, and 1 Love, which is why this deck has 3 different kinds in it. So the idea behind this Ellie deck is to activate a lot of Animo that costs really cheap, that prevents you from seeing Cines, have a bunch of Fellowship bonuses, so that way you can maximize your score each and every single turn. So you're dodging Cines, and you're just gaining all these virtue points from all these Fellowship bonuses that you can combine them with. And you'll see that I have some for Love, some for Holy Spirit, I have some for Hope, so that way all these things can have synergy with one another. And then I can also activate Poperez for 3, Well, all these guys cost 1, which means like this one would cost 1, this one would cost 1, this one would cost 1, and then I activate this one for 3. So that would give me 12, 22, and 32 points in a single turn with these guys being activated. And if I don't have the right fellowship bonus, I could go and I could just activate Toward a Sword to try and find an Animo that will match my fellowship bonus. All right. And with that, that has been our Ellie, Holy Spirit, Hope, and Love deck profile. So in the meantime, Truth Seekers, keep learning virtues and defeating cities.